Hello, this is Nima Gopalbhai on KUCI 88.9 Irvine. So, on last week's show, we did The Shining, as well as we did a bit of Silence of the Lambs, too. But on this week's show, I don't think I'm going to do one movie again. I think we're going to do a few, but the main focus will be the first two of the Bourne trilogy movies, so Bourne Identity and Bourne Supremacy. And then I think we could talk about a few other things I've seen in recent time, and maybe even a TV show I'll get in there. And maybe we'll have some yawning on today's show because I am so tired and I did not get much sleep. And I had to gas up on the way here, so it was a pretty hectic day for me. But hopefully that makes the show better. Alright. And if you're watching at home, I forgot my computer, so I'm recording this on my phone, so the audio won't be very good, but it'll be fine. Alright. Just pulling up the IMDb. Alright, so preface for the Bourne trilogy. Obviously, the fourth movie is not something that I even bother rewatching. I saw it in theaters as a kid. Let's see how old I was when that came out. Bourne Legacy. So I was actually 10. I thought I was older, but I saw the fourth movie, Bourne Legacy, when I was 10 years old, and I remember being very confused about what this movie was. It seemed totally random to me, and just I obviously didn't like it, and it felt like it had no soul. I didn't want to see Hawkeye do a spin-off of the Bourne Identity movies that, doesn't even have his name in the title. It's still the Bourne movies, but he's just not in it. And yeah, I never liked the movie. I only saw it once, and I don't see the point of rewatching it. But for the Bourne trilogy, I've watched these movies quite a lot, especially in recent times. There was a time, though, where I didn't rewatch these movies in 10 years, because I saw them probably when I was 8, and I rewatched them when I was probably 20. So that was 12 years, and like I said, I watched these when I was quite young. I was 8 years old, and I did like them quite a bit, but I think the darker tone maybe appeals to me more now, because I remember back then, while I did like the Bourne movies a lot, I still would always prefer rewatching James Bond movies. But nowadays I rewatch Bourne more, but that's probably because I've seen the James Bond movies so many times, or at least most of them. What else is there to say in background, my personal background with these movies? I don't think there's anything else I can say. So let's just get right into Bourne Identity. Bourne Identity is a movie directed by a guy named Doug Liman, who I actually watched his other really famous movie, Edge of Tomorrow, with my friend Raj right before. So I watched two of his movies in a row, which is interesting. Edge of Tomorrow is a fantastic movie. Let's actually talk about that too, since it's one of his movies as well, but after the Bourne movies we'll do that. And Bourne Identity, like I said, it has a much darker tone, and I don't think you can talk about these movies without the context they were made in. And that basically is the James Bond series sort of hit a low point with what was the movie called? Yeah, Die Another Day, and sort of not just Die Another Day, but a few of the last Pierce Brosnan movies. No offense to Pierce Brosnan, I think he was a fantastic Bond. I just think that they were too goofy at the end, and that's the context Bourne Identity was made in, like a sort of hyper goofy, silly James Bond series that kind of lost touch of the original's style and like groundedness. Or no, it lost touch of the grounded nature of the original James Bond movies that were paired with style. I think they became so stylistic that the style just became like goofy. So this movie is a lot more stripped down, a lot less sort of the high life, the high romance, the sort of suits, the glamour of the James Bond series. He's basically a spy, an assassin that loses his memory, and he's kind of on the run for his life. He can't stay in any fancy hotels. He's got really just his muscle memory, and he's just got to figure out who he is. So very grounded. And just in general, how the movie is shot, it's just less pretty. And what I mean by less pretty, I don't mean it's shot worse than the James Bond movies. I mean, like, it's less extravagant in terms of the atmosphere and the cinematography. Now, segueing into the fact that it is actually an extremely well-directed film, and I maybe even appreciated it more this time when I watched it. The film's use of sort of very bleak environments, but somehow making them quite beautiful is really something special. It uses like a kind of a grainier cam, especially on this first film, and it really adds to this feeling of kind of depression, because you're in Bourne's shoes and he lives in kind of a bleak world. And I think before we get into the synopsis, I know I'm talking a lot about background and stuff, but I think the thing I like most about Identity compared to the other two films is Identity is kind of a film you can relax to and get lost in. It has this quality of being kind of like a rainy day. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I know it probably sounds like it, but it has this, like, I don't know how to explain it, but it's just calming, I guess, even though it's an action movie. And one more thing before we move on. Action in this movie and then all three movies are some of the finest I've ever seen. It uses a thing called shaky cam, where the camera basically is kind of handheld and it looks more realistic, and it's kind of quick cuts, which is a very difficult thing to do and do right, because if you remember the film Quantum of Solace, that film has absolutely awful, like, fast-paced, kind of shaky cam, quick cuts. It's done terribly in that film, and I think it's quite clear they tried to copy the Bourne movies, but it was an absolute failure. So yeah, let's get into the synopsis finally. About 10 minutes of background. Let's first see what it was nominated for before we get into that. Oscars, but it got some other awards. I think it definitely deserved a nomination. It's a very good film. Just trying to find it. Okay, there you go. In the Mediterranean Sea, fishermen rescue an American adrift with 2 gunshot wounds in his back. They tend to his wounds and find that he has no memory of his identity, but retains his speech, advanced combat skills, and fluency in several languages. The skipper, named Giancarlo, finds a laser projector under the man's hip. Basically, it's surgically implanted. And it basically has a bank address and a safety deposit box number for a bank in Zurich, Switzerland. So very strange. The skipper gives him some money upon landing in Imperia, Italy. 2 weeks later, the American goes into the bank in Switzerland to investigate the deposit box. He finds it contains a bunch of different passports with different names, his face on all of them, a handgun, and probably around $100,000 to $200,000 in cash in various currencies. So, basically, you're starting to find out gradually in this film, in just the first, 10-20 minutes, that this man named Jason Bourne, and that's what the name is on his American passport, so he assumes it's his name. You're finding out that Jason Bourne is probably some spy or assassin or some really well-connected person just right away. And then he decides, first the bank employee, who's the CIA operative, informs Treadstone's head, whose name's Conklin. Treadstone is the assassin program Bourne was a part of, issues an alert to police to capture Bourne and activates 3 agents to kill him. CIA deputy Abbott contacts Conklin. Oh yeah, Abbott is played by Brian Cox, who's a really good actor. He contacts Conklin about a failed assassination attempt against exiled African dictator Wombosi. Conklin promises Abbott that he will deal with the Treadstone agent who failed. That's Bourne. Or, we don't know it yet, but I'll just spoil it for you. Wombosi is an African dictator who is deposed by the CIA. He is threatening to write an expose against the CIA in Africa unless he is reinstalled as president. Turns out the CIA has a covert assassination program called Treadstone, and Bourne is an agent. He failed in one of his missions, and now the CIA wants to eliminate him to tie loose ends. Conklin is the CIA guy, and Abbott is his boss. There's a great scene at the American passport where you kind of see for the first time that he has very advanced combat skills as muscle memory. This is who Bourne is. He escapes the consulate, and he basically, a German woman named Marie Kreutz is getting into her red Mini Cooper outside, and he basically sees her while the cops are kind of looking for him, and he's like, I'll give you $20,000 if you drive me to Paris. And he's basically wants to go to Paris because that's the address listed on his French driver's license. And, so basically this starts a little romance between Bourne and Marie. So I think this is very interesting. Comparing it to James Bond, there's so many different things about this type of romance. Number one, and most obviously, she's significantly less pretty than the Bond girl. Definitely less like extravagant in how she dresses and stuff. Number two, also, she's not like kind of. Oh, here's the second main difference. Bourne doesn't like immediately try to like seduce her. That's the other big difference. He's pretty awkward around her. So that's definitely a big difference than the James Bond story, or how most James Bond movies go. And there was another thing I was going to say, but I don't know why I forgot it, so maybe I'll think about it later. Okay, so just in this like beginning scene while they're driving, it's absolutely beautifully shot, amazing. So like around Switzerland and the French Alps, the Swiss Alps, and stuff like that. She's kind of introduces herself as a little bit of a annoying character, but I like it because I think it's kind of funny. But I don't mean funny like haha funny. I mean it's kind of like quirky and interesting, and I kind of find it somewhat endearing. She like talks a lot when she's nervous or something, and he just sits there in silence and he has nothing to say. It's quite funny. And they basically get to Paris, and he has like a really nice apartment in a nice area, and like the housekeeper walks in and is like, "You haven't been here in a long time." And he goes to his phone in his supposed apartment, clicks the redial button, and he inquires about the names on his passports there, learning that a John Michael Caine was registered but died 2 weeks prior in a car crash. So it's interesting, one of his passport identities, the guy died. So he died 2 weeks ago. Then one of the assassins, the CIA/Treadstone sent, ambushes Bourne and Marie in the apartment, but Bourne gets the upper hand. Instead of allowing himself to be interrogated, the assassin throws himself out of the window to his death. Bourne asks Marie to look through the guy's bag, and Marie finds wanted posters of Bourne and herself, and she panics basically. I didn't really like the scene where she panics. I think it was a little overdone. I thought she was most annoying in this scene. I don't really think she was annoying in much else of the movie, but this scene she just kind of like overdid it, and she seemed... I didn't like it. Bourne evades police in Marie's car, and the two spend their night in like a crummy Paris hotel. And I think this is a scene where they cut their hair and dye their hair. Well, he doesn't, but he does it to her, and she looks very different. Wombosi obsesses over the attempt on his life. Conklin, having anticipated this, planting a body in Paris to appear as the assailants. So this is John Michael Caine's supposed body, but it's just a fake, or it's just a different person. And Wombosi's not fooled because the body has no bullet holes in his back and threatens to report CIA secrets to the media. The professor is a nickname for one of the assassins Treadstone sends. Treadstone assassinates Wombosi on Conklin's orders. Conklin tells Abbott that Bourne killed Wombosi to complete his mission and might report back in 24 hours. So Conklin's lying, and Brian Cox's character, named Abbott, is basically increasingly seeing that Conklin is screwing this up. He's bringing a lot of heat. He's kind of making obvious mistakes, and it can be a bit of a problem for Abbott because this is not looking clean. So Conklin says Bourne might report in 24 hours, but that's obviously not going to happen. had a yawn. Just yawned there. Um, Meanwhile, Jason gets Marie to investigate the hotel where Kane was registered and finds the morgue where the body was kept. But the body has already been moved the day before Wombosi visited the morgue to see Kane's body. Bourne, posing as Kane at a security company, learns about Wombosi's yacht, which was in the company's brochure, and that the assailant was shot twice in the back during the escape. He realizes that he was this assailant. So that's how he, was found in the sea. And that's how he has the 2 bullet holes in his back. Marie has an idea to take refuge at basically it's one of her relatives' houses, but I always thought it was a former boyfriend, but I guess I'm wrong. So, my bad. So she goes to this guy's house who's a relative in the country, the French countryside, and she assumes he's not going to be there, but he turns out to be there, and his kids are there too, so this can be a little bit messed up if something happens. And basically Jason and Marie don't know that all of Marie's relatives are being monitored by the CIA, and they're going to check this house to see if they're there. Under pressure from Abbott to tie off the Wombosi matter, Conklin tracks Bourne's location and sends an assassin there. But Bourne shoots him with a shotgun. This scene is actually quite great, and I like it because he's not using a modern gun. He's using like a long barrel shotgun that he found at the house, the country house. And it's a really cool scene where he shoots him in the field, like a wheat field. Actually, I don't think it's a wheat field. I think it's just like an overgrown grass area. And this is a line I like. There's 2 lines I really like from this movie. One is from Right Now, where he kills the assassin, and the assassin sort of has a death where he bleeds out, and the assassin's like, "Look what they make you give." And he says this right before he tells Bourne about Treadstone, so it's kind of like a last act that kind of shows that not everyone in this program is a robot, They got feelings, and the man dies and says, "Look what they make you give." The other line I really like from this movie was earlier in the car ride with Marie, where she's just talking nonstop. Oh no, sorry, why did I say it's from that scene? It was when they get to Paris, I think, and they're outside the apartment, and Marie's like, "Okay, I'll drop you off," and Jason's like, "You can come up if you want," because it's clear she kind of wants to come up. And so she's like, "Oh no, you'll probably just forget about me, like, a day later or something." And Jason says, like, "How could I forget you? You're the only person I know." I like that line. And yeah, she decides to stick around. Yeah. So after he kills the assassin, let's see. He contacts Conklin using the assassin's phone. Jason tells Conklin that Marie is dead, but really Marie was just sent off with her relative. Jason didn't want to endanger her anymore. Conklin tells Abbott that it is too late to bring Jason in. Conklin agrees to meet Bourne alone in Paris. When Bourne sees that Conklin has not come alone, he abandons the meeting. He places a tracking device on Conklin's car, leading Bourne to Treadstone's safe house in Paris. Conklin has ordered the moving of the safe house. Bourne breaks in and holds Conklin and logistics technician Nikki Parsons at gunpoint. Bourne and Conklin's conversation in the safe house pretty much clears the mystery. Bourne asks, "Who am I?" To which Conklin replies, "You're U.S. government property. You're a malfunctioning $30 million weapon. You're a total goddamn catastrophe." When Conklin presses him to remember his past, Bourne recalls his attempt to assassinate Wombosi through flashbacks. Basically, he went to assassinate the guy, but he was on the couch watching something with his child, and his child was like crawling on him, and Bourne sort of had a crisis of conscience and put the weapon down, and then they shot him and he fell off the yacht. Bourne announces he is resigning from Treadstone and is not to be followed, and he basically leaves. As the agents descend on the safe house, Bourne fights his way free. When Conklin leaves the safe house, he encounters Mannheim, which is another one of the assassins under Abbott's orders, who then kills him. So Abbott kills Conklin and shuts down Treadstone and lets Bourne walk away, since Conklin was the one that messed up. So basically Abbott tied off the loose ends properly. He let Bourne go disappear, and then he tied off the loose end of Conklin, who sort of screwed up this whole thing and created loads of heat and lots of attention towards himself and the agency. Abbott reports to an oversight committee that Treadstone is all but decommissioned, before discussion turns to a new project codenamed Blackbriar. Bourne finds Marie renting out scooters to tourists on Mykonos, and the two reunite. So, perfect ending to this movie. A little bit of a hint about where it's going with program Blackbriar, sort of establishing Abbott as this sly, sort of smart, possible villain down the line, and also ending it in a great place where he walks into Marie's little, I think it's a restaurant or shop she's set up in Mykonos, and sort of just reuniting with her, and it's a beautiful ending. It's exactly what you want. And let's say this movie was not a financial success and they did not have the money to make the next two movies. You could end this and be like, oh wow, that's a great movie. But obviously it's better for being a trilogy, but it would also be good just as one movie. This is a movie I've definitely appreciate more on every rewatch, from the beautiful cinematography and direction to the sort of really perfect and unique action that never feels old. And then it's also paired with this amazing soundtrack that I actually don't know who wrote, so let's go check who wrote it. I'll check. I have to search it up. One second. Okay, the guy who wrote it is named John Powell. I've never actually heard of him. Let me see what else he's done, because it's a really nice soundtrack. Okay, he's done X-Men. Oh, he did X-Men The Last Stand. I actually don't remember the soundtrack in that movie. The movie is not very good. Wow. I just scrolled through the Wikipedia page a bit, and apparently The Last Stand was the most expensive film ever made at the time. Pretty impressive. He's also done a bunch of animated films like Lorax, Thelma the Unicorn. I've never heard of these. Oh, okay. I think he did the soundtrack for Solo too. Once again, I don't remember that one. So I don't really know too much of this guy's music. However, I can say it's excellent in this, and it really fits well. Because it kind of has, much like the shaky cam, it kind of has like a very realistic and fitting way of portraying the action, let's say. I would give this movie either an 8.9 or a 9 out of 10. I'm going to give it a 9. I consider this a great film. Like, entry-level great film. And, like I said, it's appreciated in my mind as I watch it more and more. I think if you haven't watched these movies, you gotta watch them. And I think there's a fair few people that haven't seen them that have seen, like, James Bond, you know? Or if you just like action movies in general, I don't see how you could not watch these films. And let's talk about the actors, and then we'll go on to the next film. Matt Damon is a actor that I usually, or at least in the past, I didn't like him very much. However, after watching these movies again, I do like him now. I think he's perfect in this film. I really enjoyed him. Franca Potente, who played Marie, I like her a lot. I think she was great. She fit perfectly. Chris Cooper, that played Conklin, was very good. Clive Owen, who was one of the assassins, very good. Brad Cox was fantastic. And yeah, that's the main ones, but very good. The second movie has some even greater performances, I would say. So, Bourne Supremacy. Bourne Supremacy is a more plotty movie. It has more stuff going on. On one hand, I do think that makes it perhaps a better movie, but I think I actually consider this about the same nowadays as Bourne Identity, which is surprising because that also wasn't my opinion the whole time I've known these movies. It's directed by a new guy, Paul Greengrass, but he 100% keeps the style and does a pretty seamless job. It's a little less like grainy and gritty as Bourne Identity, but I kind of think that's on purpose because they're kind of in nicer locations for the most part, and I guess it's trying to show that like Bourne is kind of getting used to this. Paul Greengrass, he directed the last two movies. He's directed a few other films that are considered good, but I don't believe I've actually seen any of them. Yeah, I'm just looking through them. Okay, you made Captain Phillips. I never watched that. Oh, right, there was a fifth Bourne movie called Jason Bourne. That's so stupid. They couldn't leave well enough alone. Like, if they had just made 3 movies, imagine, like, how much nicer that would be. Cleaner. Instead of 2 mediocre cash grabs. Okay. So, let's get into the plot. One second. I always have a hard time finding the synopsis. Okay, and I don't think we'll be able to do Edge of Tomorrow. We don't have enough time, I doubt. So, 2 years after the disappearance, Jason Bourne and Marie are in Goa, India. So they're no longer in Mykonos, Greece, which sort of you're allowed to fill in your own, or fill in the story with your own imagination. It's clear that they're on the run always. They have to move. You know, Bourne uses his skills to basically know that he can't stay in a place for too long. And he's experiencing flashbacks still about his life as an assassin. And Bourne is recording them in a notebook, which is pretty smart. In Berlin, a CIA agent working for Deputy Director Pamela Landy, played by Joan Allen, who I really like this character, and I really like this actress. She becomes, or she's introduced, and you think that, okay, maybe she's another villain to be against Bourne, but we see if that's true or not. And a CIA agent working for Pamela Landy is paying $3 million to an unnamed Russian source for the Nesky files, documents on the theft of $20 million 7 years prior from the CIA. The deal is interrupted by Kirill, played by Carl Urban, who's fantastic in this movie in every way. He looks the part, he acts the part, and he's just quite cool. He's a great actor, by the way. I haven't really seen him in much. I think I saw him just in Lord of the Rings. I know he's in The Boys. Oh yeah, he's Dredd, but I didn't like Dredd. Dredd is no good. So the deal's interrupted by Kirill, an agent for the FSB, which is like the KGB. It's the Russian secret police. But he's basically not exactly an agent of the state. He's basically selling his services to an oligarch. So this is showing that corruption in Russia, where the oligarchs basically have... The oligarchs in the state are kind of fused. And it's clear they have a lot of power beyond just money. So beforehand, Kirill plants 2 explosive devices on the building's electrical circuit. One takes out the power to the building. The other does not go off, but he plants Bourne's fingerprints on it in order to frame him. Kirill kills the agent and the source and steals the files and the money. Gretkov directs Kirill to Goa to kill Bourne. Gretkov is the oligarch Kirill works for, and however, Bourne spots him at the market and on the beach and flees with Marie. So this is an amazing scene where he goes to the beach to pick up Marie in like a random car. And he's like, we got lazy, someone's on to us. And there's an amazing chase that ends in a bridge. And, I mean, this scene is just directed so well. It feels very realistic because, spoiler, she's just like shot in like the neck or the side of the head. And it seems so sudden and like... It was very powerful. And yeah, the car goes over the edge and they fall into the water and she bleeds out and very sad, and he basically is like crying underwater, which I kind of like because, you know, these characters that play these sort of like stoic killers, it's hard to make them cry without, you know, diminishing the audience's perception of them. But I love this little trick to make them cry underwater, which you can't see it, but you see the emotion. So the character's kind of left intact, but you let them grieve. Very cool and very gutsy to kill off the other main character within 15 minutes of the film. Very, very gutsy. Kirill... Oh, sorry. So, Kirill thinks that he shot Bourne. But Bourne's alive, and Kirill reports that Bourne's dead to his boss. Bourne leaves India and travels to Naples. After finding Bourne's fingerprint, she runs it through the CIA database, but she can't access Bourne's files. So this is Pamela Landy, because they are protected under Project Treadstone. Landy asks Director Ward Abbott about Operation Treadstone, the defunct CIA program which Bourne belonged to. Abbott tells Landy that the Treadstone program was a defunct CIA program to which... Oh, sorry, I messed that up. Abbott tells Landy that the Treadstone program was a Black Ops program. Bourne messed up an operation and didn't report himself, because obviously he got shot, but whatever. And Abbott had Conklin killed and put a lid on Treadstone. Landy tells Abbott that the CIA agent who stole $20 million was named in the Nesky files. So Landy is trying to tackle corruption in the CIA, and Abbott's kind of like the old guard maybe that does things pretty ruthlessly, although there's no indication that he's directly necessarily corrupt right now, other than morally, I guess. Some years previously, Russian politician Nesky was about to identify the thief when he was killed by his wife in a suspected murder-suicide in Berlin. Landy believes that Bourne and Treadstone's late supervisor, Conklin, who had $760,000 in his bank account, were somehow involved, and that Bourne killed the Neskys. Both Abbott and Landy go to Berlin to capture Bourne. In Naples, Bourne allows himself to be captured and identified by security. He subdues his CIA interrogator easily and copies his SIM card from his cell phone. Once again, this is I love the cleverness of these movies. They're so intelligent and tight, and Bourne's resourcefulness is really fun to watch. So I was thinking, I think everyone obviously wants James Bond's life, but in terms of skill set, you gotta have Jason Bourne. Jason Bourne is like a superhero almost. He's so good. Where was I? Okay, he copies a SIM card and he learns from the subsequent phone call about Landy and that he's being framed for stealing some information and killing a CIA agent. Bourne goes to Munich to visit Jarda. Wait, what? Oh yeah, okay, he goes to visit another Treadstone operative. Jarda informs Bourne that Treadstone was shut down after Conklin's death and tries to incapacitate him. Great action scene here. Bourne kills Jarda in self-defense before escaping when the CIA arrives. Bourne follows Landy and Abbott as they meet former Treadstone support technician Nikki Parsons from the first movie to question her about Bourne. Believing the CIA is hunting him again, Bourne calls Landy from a nearby roof. Landy keeps insisting that Bourne had 2 CIA operatives killed in Berlin. He demands a meeting with Nikki and indicates to Landy that he can see her from her office. Great moment, by the way. Abbott is not in favor of bringing Bourne in. He wants to send a team to kill Bourne. So this is kind of slowly building up the fact that perhaps Abbott does not want to hear what Bourne has to say. And you have to wonder why that is. Bourne kidnaps Nikki and basically interrogates her and learns that Abbott was the head of Treadstone, not Conklin. Bourne spares Nikki after revealing she knows nothing about the mission, and he was in India when the 2 men in Berlin got killed. And basically, the CIA is listening to Nikki's comm at the time, so they hear that Bourne is forcefully denying he was in Berlin, he didn't steal these documents, he didn't kill anybody, he was in India, and that, his girlfriend got killed. Bourne thinks it's the CIA, but obviously it's not. It's the Russian oligarch trying to cover his tracks. He says that someone's framed him. Nikki says that Landy was trying to buy the files from a source, which would have revealed a mole in the CIA. So someone's selling documents to a Russian oligarch. Bourne has flashes of something he did in Berlin as his first job, but Nikki has no documents on it, insisting that that was not his first job. Bourne then visits the hotel he researches from the internet, where the killing took place, and recalls more of his mission. He killed Nesky on Conklin's orders, and when Nesky's wife showed up, he shot her too, making it look like a murder-suicide. Danny Zorn, Conklin's former assistant, finds inconsistencies with the report of Bourne's involvement with the death of the agent, so he takes Abbott down to the electrical circuit where the bomb was placed and explains his theory, indicating that Bourne's fingerprints were on the bomb that had not gone off. Abbott then kills Zorn to prevent him from informing Landy, so now it's clear that Abbott is the guy. He is the CIA mole. He's selling documents to the Russians, and also he's not just ruthless to pursue like the national interest. He's ruthless to defend himself too, which creates him as a clear villain here. And he's trying to kill Bourne because he doesn't want people sniffing around and investigating that will prove that he's part of this. Bourne breaks into Abbott's hotel room. Oh, this skips out a part where he goes into the hotel that he killed Nesky in, and he has more flashbacks. And anyway, Bourne breaks into Abbott's hotel room, and he's basically hiding in the darkness, and he's hearing Abbott on the phone with Gretkov. Basically, Abbott's like, you gotta kill Bourne, he's gonna find out what we did, that I've been selling you information, and basically Gretkov used the stolen $20 million to buy the oil leases that made him rich. Abbott allowed this to happen and took his cut from Gretkov. Abbott admits to Bourne that he stole the money, authorized him to murder Nesky, ordered Kirill to retrieve the files, and had Bourne framed before arranging him to be silenced in Goa. So that he just wanted to frame Bourne and then have him killed so they'd be chasing a corpse. Abbott expects Bourne to kill him, but Bourne refuses, believing that Marie would not want him to kill Abbott, which was a nice moment, leaving his gun on the table. Essentially, before he leaves the gun on, or he shows that he had a tape recorder in his hand. He recorded the whole thing. After Bourne leaves, Landy confronts Abbott about her suspicions, and he commits suicide. Landy returns to her hotel room, finding an envelope containing the tape of Abbott's conversations with Gretkov and Bourne. Bourne then travels to Moscow to find Nesky's daughter. And then we get this absolutely insane, absolutely incredible, classic car chase. I'd say one of the finest car chases ever. They don't make good car chases anymore because they are infested with CGI and fake cars, and it just does not look the same as actual stunts. This is an amazing car chase between Kirill and Bourne. Kirill is seriously wounded. Gretkov is arrested. Bourne locates Irina and confesses to murdering her parents, apologizing to her as he leaves. This is him kind of turning over a new leaf, taking responsibility, saying sorry. Later in New York, Bourne calls Landy. She thanks him for the tape, reveals to him his original name, David Webb, and his date of birth, and asks him to meet her. Bourne says, "Get some rest, Pam. You look tired." Boom. Punchline. End of film. Great, great, great way to end a movie. It's kind of like a funny but clever ending, which is just perfect. Okay, we got like 7 minutes. Whew. I guess I'll just talk about a few things in the meantime, and I don't have to rush. So this film really continues everything great about what Bourne Identity was, while kind of innovating a bit. It continues the extremely well-made action scenes and the extremely clever action scenes that kind of top the original in many ways. It is also superbly directed. I may prefer the direction on the first one slightly, but I'm not 100% sure about that. The film has some great moments, like killing off the main romantic lead within 15 minutes. It just sets the tone for the rest of the movie that, like, they're not playing around, and, like, everybody's in danger. in this movie, which really adds to the suspense and all that. I should have said actually that Marie's last words were like, "Of course you have a choice," and she was they were arguing in the car on the bridge, like, I don't know, that this doesn't have to be their life. It's maybe a bit naive, but it sort of all comes full circle when he doesn't kill Abbott, and he says that Marie wouldn't want him to. And I like the ghost of Marie sticking with Bourne throughout this movie. I like that he carries her picture around. I like that he, sort of the climax of the movie, she's a big part of it, where he chooses not to kill Abbott. It's very, very good. Beyond that, it shows like his strength of character, not only that he, sticks with her and her memory is like a big part of his life, but also that he chooses not to kill him, shows that he's turning over a new leaf, and also that he goes to apologize to the girl in Moscow. And beyond that, he tells her that your mother did not kill your father, which is important for her in her life, obviously, because that's a pretty crazy thing to have happen in your family. What else can I say? We should talk about the actors, too. Goes without saying that, Marie and Jason Bourne's actors were both very good again. I love Joan Allen as Pamela Landy. I think she's a great character that goes on like a mini redemption arc where you kind of think she's a villain, but then she's kind of a hero. Well, she is a hero. Other than that, her acting was just really good. She looked the part. I could believe she's a CIA, agent. I believe that she has strong leadership capabilities. It all seemed really real to me. Then we had Kirill, played by Karl Urban. Very believable as like a Russian Secret Service agent. I really believe that. Brian Cox is probably one of the finest actors working today. There's something about like Irish and British actors that definitely, compared to most American actors, they seem to be generally superior. And I believe the reason is because a lot of them trained in like Shakespearean theater, which they play very powerful characters, quite masculine characters too. I think it really helps their performances, especially as like villains. A lot of the time, they play good villains. Like Ian McKellen, Brian Cox, Patrick Stewart. What's his name? Anthony Hopkins. These are just a few. A guy that may not get too much love in this film is just the minor character of Jarda, who is the assassin that in Berlin that Bourne went to visit. The actor I really like. I think he looks very cool. He looks very Russian, but he's not. And he's just an amazing actor. It's a guy named Martin Kosakas. He is amazing in The Equalizer, where he plays a Russian mobster. Both looks and sounds very cool. And an amazing actor that is very underrated and not used enough. Got 2 minutes here. Yeah, I would say that's all I want to talk about in terms of actors. Anyway, I think we got 1 minute left, so I can start signing off. It's an amazing movie. I'd consider both these movies about the same in terms of rating. I give them a 9 out of 10. you gotta watch these movies if you love action movies, if you love a great story, if you love great made movies. Alright, I'll see you later.